What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today we're doing something that I wanted to do for a very long time. Now, I've never seen this done and I'm kind of learning as I go, but I have a full roof rack on my Jeep and I just took the entire roof off my Jeep as one piece. Stay tuned. So ever since I got my Jeep, I've always been trying to figure out to find the easiest way to take the hardtop off of my Jeep all by myself. I've used ratchet straps attached to the ceiling, I've used a hoist, and I never even considered making a video on how to hoist up your top because I figured there's so much stuff out there online already, but everything changed recently since I've picked up my roof rack. It's a full roof rack that actually attaches to even the front freedom panels. So removing the roof rack is not an option every time I want to take the top off the Jeep. Well, I had to figure out a way. And I think with what I came up with, you could have the best of both worlds. Removing the whole top with a roof rack as one piece without removing the freedom panels separately. You're definitely gonna need a second set of hands. Someone like my buddy over here, he's gonna help me out today, and we're gonna try to get this mounted up on the roof, or on the ceiling I should say. If you are doing it with a roof rack, you are gonna have to pop your roof rack slightly off so you can move your freedom panels just far enough so you could get that bolt out on both sides that holds the back piece of your top. I don't think you really need that in my opinion at all because I have the clamps holding down the freedom tops and the 30 clips that it has on the inside. I don't think I should have any vibrations or any issues. So you're definitely gonna need some pulleys, some carabiners, these straps right here. And these straps, I'll put a link in the description for all the stuff that you need. A pulley like this as your kind of main pulley. You're also gonna need a Harbor Freight or equivalent hoist like this. You can get one on Amazon. I'll throw a link out there too. This one I got from Harbor Freight and I've actually used it for something else. And now we're gonna repurpose it and use it to hoist up the roof. And then the next thing that we got here is I already rattle canned this, so I cut down some tubing. This is actually, I think this is 120 wall. I'm not sure. It's a little bit thinner maybe actually. But 2x2 tubing, you could use regular wood 2x4s if you need to. I cut these down from a 20-footer and basically just rattle can them. I don't have any 2x4s and I have a ton of steel, so I am using steel. You're gonna need a laser or something equivalent to it to figure out where you're going on your ceiling. And essentially, I marked up two of my edges or two of my corners right to the top where the rope is gonna go. So the rope is gonna go directly up from here on all four corners. I got another one over here, there, and there. First thing you're gonna wanna do is pull your Jeep into your garage, making sure this is where you're gonna park it all the time, because chances are if your roof is off and you're backing the Jeep in, you're gonna back up and under your roof. Unless it's really high, that you're clearing it completely, you're probably gonna end up keeping your Jeep in that spot all the time. Figure out all your clearance issues like garage door, so it's not hitting the garage door, as my roof is gonna go up all in one piece with the freedom panels. So as far as your hoist, we're not gonna need all this stuff on here. Snatch block hook. We're not gonna need this hook. We're definitely not gonna need the spring, and we're not gonna need the safety stop. The safety stop is basically to stop your hoist so you don't go any higher. I'm not gonna be using that. So I have a half inch piece of flat bar attached to this. I already pre-drilled the holes that I needed for my 2x4s or the studs in the wall, and you can actually use the same exact thing except
wood. You could use a 2x4 to go from stud to stud and sink your bolts into the studs. Again, that would probably make it more simple than actually trying to cut some 1/2 inch thick steel. So I'm using steel, you can use wood. Make sure you got your safety squints and don't run a death wheel without the safety cage. That is definitely not ABS. It's ABS on the outside and steel on the inside.
So the original idea was to cut everything off of the line because the line had a permanent loop in it that I did not want to take apart. Well, ran into the first issue, and that was that the stop was actually made out of steel and it would have taken me forever to cut through it. So we figured the best way to remove that is to basically disassemble the hoist, unwind the entire line, and pull all of that stuff through to the other side of the line, which worked out very nicely and got everything taken off of that. The next step was to cut off the hook that was permanently mounted at the loop at the end of the line, which was pretty easy. And the next step was to put the hoist in the permanent location, which was right on top of my wall cabinet in the garage. I already lined everything up and measured it out, as well as centered it up with the laser to make sure I know where the hoist center is for the spool so that I can have the line going straight up and towards the roof.
Perfect. This is perfect.
So the next challenge was to figure out where I'm going to lay out my pulley so none of the rope lines overlap each other or touch the actual bar. So it took me a minute to lay everything out, but I finally figured it out. And then in order to mount the pulleys, I decided that I was going to use riv nuts instead of just using the basic bolt and nut. Riv nut just basically goes into a drilled slot, compresses in there, and you don't need to access the back of it in order to put the bolt in and have it nice and tight.
A riv nut should hold it, right? Just say yes. Yes. Okay, good. All right, I'm gonna use riv nuts. If my roof falls, then I'll just weld these on. Sure. So, problem when you're making stuff like this, and you have me and a software engineer that's helping me out here, trying to come up how to get the hoist to automatically stop when the roof reaches the very top. This is turning into from a DIY to like legit software development for self-parking Jeep and self-roof removal with Raspberry Pi and custom software. Yeah, I mean that's exactly what we need to do. The guys that are watching, they're like, we could just get the soft top that just goes up by itself and avoid everything. Yeah, right. Your wife taking out the trash and the roof just comes crashing down.
She's like, we should turn off the light here. She's like, bam.
All right, these are done. Now they gotta go on the ceiling.
So after assembling the bars that are going to be holding up the roof with the pulleys, I had to figure out exactly where all my studs are in the ceiling, and I really had to make sure I take my time and find the center of the stud so when the bolt goes in, it goes right into the middle and I basically have the most possible support that I can.
All right, so there's a stud here.
So after finding all the studs and mounting up the bars to the ceiling, the next thing to do was to run the rope through the pulleys and get it set up to the hoist.
That looks pretty good. We're gonna have to pull the Jeep in to get the final length, hook everything up and get it nice and tight so it's all the same.
And after pulling in the Jeep and rigging everything up, we were ready to test.
Let's do it. That's it.
That's it.
That is it. Dude, this came out good. And it all comes off as one piece with the Freedom tops. Sweet. Yeah, I could see that I need to adjust it because look, the front is slightly lower now.
Slightly like tilted.
That's it. Done. Jeep is topless.
It works and it does exactly what I want it to do. Now there's a couple of things that I want to go over, and I think there's some improvements that can be made in exactly how this is set up. First of all, these straps rock. They seem to be holding pretty well. These carabiners are pretty good and they lock in if you need to. Now, as far as the knots, I used a figure 8 knot basically to tie this. So this is the same type of knot that you would use for rock climbing. It's basically a figure 8 knot that you use for belaying yourself or somebody else. And I know I can trust this knot because I've done quite a bit of rock climbing and I've trusted my life on this knot, so I know it's gonna work. All right, so the way my hoist is mounted to the wall and it has to go off to the side from the orientation of the hoist. Obviously it's not coming through the safety switch, which is right here. Mine goes straight up and over, so obviously I had to notch this frame out in order to make it work. Now, it's not a big deal, everything is still as solid as it gets, but if you have the ability to mount your hoist the right side up, I think that would be a great idea. Now, as far as the roof going up all in one piece, it actually works fairly well, and I'm very happy with the way things come out, but of course I do have to tweak a couple of things. I am noticing that there's a little bit of flex in here. When I lift up the roof, it does want to pick the Freedom panel up higher than the actual roof. And even though I have this latch right here latched, just to have some extra support from this Freedom panel from pulling upwards. This honestly doesn't matter all that much. I mean, this is the way that it is when you lift the roof off the Jeep. Overall, when it comes back down on the Jeep, obviously I have it slightly elevated right now, but when you put the roof back down, this actually straightens back out and stays in place, which is not a huge concern for me. Also, the majority of the roof is being lifted by this and this clamp from the roof rack, and the backbone support for the entire thing is essentially the roof rack. What this piece does is essentially help lift the Freedom panels off at the same time. Now, I know some of you guys might be thinking, okay, well, he's got his Dynamics lights here up on top. What's up with the wiring and what happens when you lift the roof off? When I installed the lights on the roof rack, I thought of that and I installed one of these 3-pin waterproof plugs. I'll put a link in the description for this. This is what's wired up to my lights, and the other side of the plug is right in here under my bracket. Just try not to forget to unplug this the way that I did when you lift your roof off. So if you guys have a full rack on your Jeep, or even if you don't, maybe you're just looking for a way to do a DIY setup in your garage to get your roof off quite easily, this is a great way to do it. I am super excited to be able to just pop my roof off whenever I want to. The project is done, the roof is up and out of the way. Jeep is topless, and as every Jeep owner knows, as soon as you take your top off, there's a severe thunderstorm warning issued with possible tornadoes. So hopefully I gave you guys some ideas of how to set up your own hoist in order to be able to take your roof off by yourself whenever you want to. I want to thank you guys for watching the video. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and later.